Hey Ryan, how you doing today, man?
Good. How are you, man?
Fantastic. Hey, I'm really excited to chat with you. We got a lot to cover today. We're going to be talking about Leica Sports Optics, your position there, and I really like to start a lot of my podcasts giving a little bit of background to my listeners for my guests, and I really wanted to maybe kind of dive back. Why don't you talk to me a little bit about where you grew up? How'd you get involved with working in the outdoor lifestyle and your love of that? And we'll just kind of thread the needle from there.
Cool. Yeah, I grew up a Midwest kid. So a lot of walleye fishing with my dad. But never actually was into we never got into hunting because my dad was he had like kind of a bad experience when, his first experience with hunting went out with a few friends and that ended up having different activities is what they thought as far as what hunting was. And so yeah, just grew up in the Midwest, doing a lot of walleye fishing, outdoor camping. We travel all across the U.S. Camping in the back of our vehicle and stuff. So yeah, that's how I kind of initially was kind of introduced to the outdoors and that lifestyle. So yeah.
Nice. And then you've been in the industry, in the outdoor industry for quite a while. Why don't you tell me about how you kind of got your first steps in there, and then we'll kind of, maybe talk about how you got involved with Leica and what you got going on now.
Yeah, it's a big question because I've been in the industry for probably like 25 plus years.
Right.
So it's hard to know where to even start from. But maybe ones that are more recognizable are I worked for Mystery Ranch for about 13 years. Kind of developed that entire brand from scratch. We were a one-person marketing team when I first started there, and uh, at the end of it, we ended up selling that to Yeti. And so, yeah, I cut my teeth in the hunting realm there. Before that, I was just primarily into climbing and backcountry skiing and stuff like that. And so, uh, yeah, so now being in the with Mystery Ranch, got exposed to hunting, backcountry hunting, bow hunting, rifle hunting, precision style shooting, all of those things that kind of come with the territory of working in that role. Yeah, so that's kind of what really kind of catapulted my career into getting way more involved into the outdoor hunting space.
Well, you just talked a lot about, as far as some of the things as far as precision shooting, hunting, bow hunting, all the things that, all the different products that are available through like sports optics really kind of fall into a lot of those different categories. And I was just kind of curious, how is it that you ended up finding yourself in that role? And what does that look like for you on a day to day right now? As I've been aware of Leica for a long time, obviously photography. I mean,
Yeah.
lenses, there's some amazing camera work, and then have had a little bit of exposure with some of the other stuff as far as like their rangefinding binoculars. I've been using those now for about 4 years, second to none out there. And, I have some here. We'll kind of go through those in a little bit that I've been working with lately, and just, phenomenal. Some of the best glass I've ever used in my entire life. And so I'd love to, kind of dive in a little bit on that, but I was just kind of curious, how did you get involved in, and, what's that day to day looking like for you right now as far as kind of bringing this into the US and taking it to that next level? Maybe a little bit of history of the brand as well, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I've known Leica through Mystery Ranch for probably since like 2010 when we were doing some content creation and we were collaborating with Leica back then. That was before like hunting media was even really a thing. I feel like that was kind of the precipice of like just, when hunting kind of exploded into this whole realm of going out and shooting video content and photography about backcountry hunting and like the whole lifestyle process and everything like that. And so Leica was a partner of ours during that. And so I think I've been spoiled since the beginning as far as like optics go. Since I bought a lot of bought a spotting scope, I bought binoculars. I've own a Leica camera. So it's just I was pretty heavily involved in just Leica itself, and so that was kind of the connection point when a role came around to assist them with marketing, kind of reestablishing the brand in the U.S. because I feel like they were kind of the king of optics, at the beginning.
Sure.
This is before a lot of the other brands kind of came around and filled the void of what they weren't doing, and so they've hired me and brought me on board to kind of reestablish the brand and kind of reestablish, Leica in the Western market and a few other ones. So, yeah, so that's kind of like the history of my relationship with Leica, and now being the director of marketing, just helping them kind of get a foothold, get some organization around what they're doing, why they're doing it. Working with a ton of good writers in the industry, that know optics way more than I do. So I don't pretend to be an expert in optics at all since I've only been here for about 6 months. So I've been pretty heavily on the product team and other individuals that have been here for decades. So what's really cool about the Leica brand is a ton of the sales guys have been here for, 15, 18, 20 years. And so Hamilton, who I knew through Mystery Ranch, who's been a part of the Leica brand for it seems like many decades. Um, he's a good friend of mine. He just reached out and he's like, "Hey, you looking for a marketing role?" And so we just chatted and connected, and that's kind of like now we're at. So
This episode is brought to you by American Made Maps. American Made Maps is the premier company producing printed and digital maps of all kinds. It doesn't matter what your project is, if you want the highest quality aerial imagery overlaid with customizable icons and labels, American Made Maps is the spot for you to go. So listen, check out AmericanMadeMaps.com to learn more information and sign up for a free consultation. You'll be glad you did. So let's kind of dive in a little bit to some of the products that I know that there's going to be some launch later on in the year, and we'll have you back and kind of discuss those, or maybe in Hamilton then to kind of go into some more details. But as far as some of the ones now, I mean, one of the ones right here, the GeoVid Pro AB Plus, the Applied Ballistics Plus. This is by far the best rangefinding binoculars I have ever used. They are super clear, amazing, accurate as could be, and I am just blown away. And I'd love for you to maybe talk a little bit about those, and with the Applied Ballistics and some of the software and developments and some of the things that you can link up, because I mean that's something you can also do with the other scopes and rangefinders, the standalones, and that what is happening these days. I think when some people used to, hey, this rangefinder binocular, cool, I can just show as far as how far this is, but there's so much technology now in the software side of things that I'd love to kind of talk, a little bit about that and let listeners understand the evolution of that and how that can be a game changer, whether that's, in your hunting relation or in your precision long range shooting or whatever that may be. So if you wouldn't mind, maybe kind of tackle a little bit of that, and we'll kind of go to a few other things here in a little bit, and we'll chat on those too.
yeah, so like just from a Leica's perspective, the goal is to make hardware and software, interconnected, and it's to make it more of an ecosystem of many different softwares out there, and maybe some hardware integrations as well. So for Leica, it's less about like, if you buy our things, you have to be a part of this proprietary system that we design, that we control, that everything is designed by Leica, and that's the only stuff that you can integrate with. And that's what most of our competitors are doing today. Leica is taking more of an approach of an open ecosystem where we integrate with the best technology in the industry, which I feel like is, whoever had that mindset, it was most likely Matthias, who's in Germany, and then a few other of his team members. But that's kind of their focus, is like, how can we integrate with the best technology in the industry? And so with the Leica AB Plus, that's an approach to work with Applied Ballistics. And actually, before my time of getting really into shooting, I thought Kestrel and Applied Ballistics were the same thing. And so kind of diving down the deep rabbit hole, Applied Ballistics is its own company, and then it integrates with all these different companies to help improve, shooting and just having access to more of your data. And so with the AB Plus, that was an attempt to, and it was completed with obviously the AB Plus of having Applied Ballistics on board your binocular. And so that's the only binocular in the industry that actually has Applied Ballistics on board. So what's different is like Applied Ballistics, if you don't have it on board, obviously you might be using a Kestrel, you might have a Garmin Fortrex, or another style of watch. So that would be off board, right? But so by having Applied Ballistics on board, you're able to make a more calculated decision within your binoculars, as opposed to having to reference another tool. Obviously, once you go to the range, you get that all set up. And then it becomes a tool that's just right there in front of you. So that's kind of like the process that they're going through from a product development standpoint, and Applied Ballistics is definitely that product is pushing the industry forward. So most companies are trying to keep, play catch up with what we're doing there. And that's the interesting thing about Leica, is that we've been making the best glass, the best hardware, and now working with some of the best software. You're getting best of both worlds of having the best hardware and software at the same time. And no one's really ever talked about it like it. And so here I am.
That's great, man. Well, it's phenomenal. I've like I said, I've used Leica rangefinding binoculars before and had the experience in just second to none glass. And I mean, whenever I started kind of getting into precision long range shooting, that was the one that my buddy was like, "Hey, he builds rifles and he's like, this is the only glass I use. This is the only rangefinding binocular. This is the most accurate. I love it." And he's shooting out 2 miles and such. So like I was like, okay, I'm going to take your word for it because I was at the 800-yard range and under at the time, but it was just something that was again second to none. And then whenever I pulled these up, just the clarity, the ability to just get spot on ranging was something that was phenomenal. But then, diving into the software side of things has just been pretty mind blowing as far as what you can do and being able to integrate that technology, which is just another level and another step forward, which Leica is just kind of improving that game. And the other thing I was got the Amplis 6 here. This is one of the mini rifle scopes that Leica has. I really like this. The clarity, of course, again, is just absolutely amazing. But being able to integrate this with the Calinex Sight SE, the thermal, a lot of times you have a standalone thermal unit, right? And I've had those where you can have like a quick detach and most of the times it'll kind of go pretty close back to center, but the ability now using the Rusin, is that how you say it? The as far as the adapter, being
I
able to
say
put these.
I say Rusan, but I don't know if that's totally accurate, but yeah, Rusan.
I'm gonna go with yours because I'm not sure, but the adapter being able to integrate these together and be able to have that as a one piece to where you could kind of take it off, and it does have a QD ability to kind of pull it back off, but the uh, being able to have something kind of using as a spotting scope and then being able to then put it back on and having that ability and that thermal is absolutely amazing. I'd love for you to maybe talk a little bit about that and that integration. And if there's anything, coming out soon, it looks like there's some, thermals that are going to be coming out on the market here later on in the year. If you want to go ahead and maybe dive into that and talk about kind of the success of this and the Calinex and what that's been looking like for you guys. I know there's a few different brands. There's the Sight, the View, the SE. So, we don't have to go into great detail, but I'd love for you to chat a little bit about that and how that is just one other step besides camera, binoculars, rangefinders, and thermals now.
Yeah, so obviously you just covered the fact that we're trying to integrate pretty much with every tool that you might need. And so with the GeoVid AB pluses that we just talked about, then you have like an Amplis reticle, an Amplis scope. We have obviously like a PRS scope, but the Amplis is specifically more of like it's a better use case for like your Western hunter. Has many different reticles. It's super durable. It's a little bit thicker tube. It allows you to select what's going to work for your use case. We have our Leica Ballistics app where you can actually load. Once you actually set up your gun profile, you can go in there and select the reticle with the Leica scope that you're using, and then you can actually get your subtension reads just off that reticle. The nice thing about that is that we've also, since we work with Applied Ballistics on our Leica app, in Applied Ballistics Quantum. Now that feature is actually in there as well. So you can use any scope, you can get all your subtensions, you can get all that information right there in the app. So by having, like a complete ecosystem, what I'm talking about, and soon that will be some things like with the spotting scope and some other hardware that we're making. But yeah, the Amplis is definitely one of those products that we never really like officially launched in the US. And so we're excited to kind of continue to talk about that and bring some attention to the fact that we do make rifle scopes. And then they also integrate with our thermal stuff. So a little history about Leica itself. If you think about it this way, Leica's been making cameras for almost 100 years. And so we made sensors, from a digital camera standpoint that captures light. And now we're making digital cameras that capture heat. So any company that's out there right now that's making thermal, they may have been doing it and they're innovative, but Leica's been doing it for a lot longer time. From a sensor standpoint, like when you talk about Leica being from a portrait photography standpoint, the best in the world,
Hmm.
now we're applying that same knowledge to our thermal digital stuff. So it's pretty monumental. I don't think that people really fully grasp that. So it's kind of a fun story and a topic to talk about. The nice thing you talked about with the Rusan adapter is that a lot of guys have or gals have their rifle scope and they don't necessarily have the funds to go invest in a whole nother thermo scope. And so for us with the clip-on technology, which is, it's not clip-ons are not mass market, but we feel like from European standpoint, from also a US standpoint, like why don't you just take something that's already there and then just integrate with it? And so you don't have to go buy a full new scope. You can just buy a Collinox clip-on. So the Collinox clip-on that you're showing there is the Collinox 1. We'll be coming out with the Collinox 2 here, hopefully by July this year. But that Collinox 2 and the Rusan adapter, you could put multiple Rusan adapters on the size of objective that you have per scope. And then you could simply just move that thermo from scope to scope to scope. So now you just like took something where it's like a single unit, and now you just have to buy an extra Rusan adapter for that other objective. And now you have a thermo scope for any scope that you own. So like, yeah. So
And
I
there's
feel like, yeah.
Yeah, there's tons of them. I was looking at the list on, matching it up to what you have. I mean, tons of different scopes there. They're made. It is not, I mean, there are a lot of different options that some people might already have on top of their rifle in their safe that is going to be easily paired up with that, with the
Right.
Collinax. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And since we partner with Rusan, that's a whole other company, and
Right.
they do all the measurements. They use all the tools to make sure it's accurate. So they've done all the hard work for you. So yeah.
Yeah, well, they are phenomenal. I want to definitely touch base too. I also have the Rangefinder CRF Pro here, which is going to be great because, as far as sometimes you get the big range finding binoculars. Obviously, if you're going to get something out there, you're going to need to have something that's a little larger. But you're in that tight space. We got turkey season coming up, and I
Yeah.
definitely think having a rangefinder that you can have handheld, super light, super accurate, and it's something that you can range out there a little bit. Hey, where are those birds coming in, and making sure you have your range for shotgun, or even if you're doing archery. I'm going to be doing that this fall with this. And I'd love to talk a little bit about that too. And again, these are other things that are, again, can be integrated. A lot of I've played around with the Bluetooth technology on, these different units here, and I've been very, very impressed. But I'd love for you to maybe talk about that a little bit. And that one also has Applied Ballistics as far as technology available with it as well.
Yeah, yeah. So the CRF Pro does and allows you to integrate with that same applied ballistics technology as well. And on our rangefinders, just any rangefinder in general, when we measure our rangefinding performance, we are ranging against non-reflective objects, and so that's probably different than most of the industry does. So we, actually range real things, and that gives us real data about what we feel like is where the performance is going to be. So yeah, you get the best of both worlds. And if you have a pair of binoculars that you already appreciate, they don't necessarily have a rangefinder in there, but you pay a good amount of money for those things because no matter what brand you buy, they could be a good chunk of money. So yeah, the handhelds are great for that. So we have the CRF-R and the CRF Pro. And then we're hopefully going to come out here with in later this season with another improvement as well. So yeah, we're always kind of pushing the envelope as far as like handhelds go.
And what are some of the units that you're taking out in the field, and what are you kind of, as far as your personal experience now? Obviously, you've had some connection with Leica for many years, and now working with them. What is it that what's been your experience and your thoughts, and what would you like to tell listeners about as far as with Leica Sports Optics and what you see coming in the future for like the U.S. market and really kind of bringing things back? Because some of these existed elsewhere, but now we're going to be seeing them a lot more here in the year and years to come. And I'd love for you to just kind of maybe talk to that a little bit and, your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I feel like the industry is just shifting. Like if you look at it from like the hunter who used to, has a gun safe. They pull their rifle out once a year, a week before the season, and then go shoot, get their zero, make sure they're out to, 100 or 200 yards, whatever their zero preference is, and then maybe they throw lob a couple out there at 300 or 400 yards, and they're like, all right, I'm good. And that's worked for a really long time, but then the industry has really shifted to you know, more of like a prepper mentality where you're going out to competitions, like maybe you're going out to NRL Hunter, maybe you're doing a PRS match. But from NRL standpoint, it's become this thing where, at least for me, where it's shifted my mentality of being more prepared out in the field because, positional shooting is a big thing. I think it's even less about like long range. like long ranges means something different for everyone, right?
Right.
And so some people might think long range is 300 yards. Some people might think long range is 1,000 yards. It just depends on what application or where you grew up or how you use that tool. Uh, but I actually find that positional shooting, even at 200 to 300 yards, can be quite difficult, especially at an NRL match where you have like a stage that has two different points and you have to engage two different targets and then shift and then engage those same targets at a different viewpoint. You have to find the target, figure out where it is. So having that field of view and being comfortable with your reticle, knowing the checkdowns and all that stuff. So I think the biggest thing for me is like learning and watching uh, during matches. I've been a range officer a couple different times. Specifically when I was at Mystery Range, we used to do a competition nearby here in Montana. But it's interesting to watch people and the people that really have their stuff dialed, the people that have the most simple process, but their technique is really good. And so that's kind of the place that we want to sit as a Leica brand is that we're really want to make sure that we are developing good shooters. We're not hoarding the information that we have. We're trying to share it and then share it as a community, be involved in the community of shooters. So we'll be sponsoring the PRS series this year and also the NRL series. And so we really do want to be involved. And then we're obviously being a part of some local matches, more on the western side. So yeah, that's where I've kind of see Leica and where we sit. And then obviously we have a really good dedication to our hunting community as well. And so how can we engage there with events, things like Total Archery Challenge we'd like to be in part of in the future. That's something I worked on at Mystery Ranch for a long time when Total Archery Challenge first even got started. So yeah, bringing a lot of our products. We have many different things available for everyone. So yeah, that's kind of where I see the direction going. And so I even got involved in this year in setting up my own rifle for the first time. Like if you've never set up a rifle first time, it really teaches you all the components. It's like if you just buy it, a rifle off the shelf, you don't get to experience like what it's like to buy, your own trigger, purchase your own chassis, find your own bolt, and then learn about all the different ways a bolt could be made. It's pretty intense.
Yeah,
I
indeed.
mean, you
What
could
what,
sit,
what did you
yeah.
end up putting together?
I worked, I really gravitated towards MDT for a chassis. I
Hmm.
really like their ACC Elite. I just like the way it looked. When I was at SHOT Show, I was just kind of like walking through every single booth and just seeing like, okay, like if I'm going to start from scratch, where do I start? I just started walking around my bike. Like, hey, did you check out MDT before? And so um, I went with that ACC Elite, and then I built the second one, the 126, um, kind of more of their lightweight carbon. But yeah, built the chassis or had the purchased the chassis from them, um, and then got a proof barrel for the ACC Elite. I got a preferred barrel for the 126 because preferred seemed like a good brand too. So I just kind of test out the waters, but getting a trigger tech, um, and then after a lot of research, ended up going with a
Yeah.
Defiance Ruckus, and then I can't remember and there's the the titanium one. Can't remember the exact name, but um, so yeah, it's been fun to kind of go from like starting from scratch, learning all the things, and then maybe even using DFAT for like training in your garage, before you actually go out to the range, so you're not like shooting all your ammo that you're trying to reload, just doing practice on the trigger and getting all your technique down. So yeah, it's been fun to kind of go through that process and then seeing how I can utilize what Leica is making. Because when you get into reticles, I mean, you can go way down the rabbit hole as far as reticles go,
Sure.
and you can have many different preferences. Like I think a lot of it can be more cognitive than you think. If you have too much stuff, like if you have a little bit of anxiety around shooting, like a lot of us do, or just like the stress of the situation and like having too much Christmas tree, dots and windage on there as far as like what that goes, and if you're actually doing holdovers or not, that can feel like it's just too much. And so, a cleaner reticle that just has your wind and elevation, maybe different tick marks, whether you're shooting Miller MOA, just kind of depends on what you're doing there. So it's interesting how, Leica's been thinking about that in the past and then how we're going to improve that in the future and, how we make reticles, whether first focal or second focal, and depending on where you're geographically located. think it
Sure,
makes
sure.
so, yeah,
But I do say like also with the Amplis 6, like being able to have the the illuminated dot in the middle
yep,
has been I love that look because there's been other ones I've used, and there's plenty of different name brands out there that people have used as well where sometimes you have your X and Y that's all lit up and it can be a little bit much. And being
yeah,
able to have just that one little tiny dot, like that was a really cool thing that when I first turned that on and tried it, I was like, oh, okay. I loved that. It made it just so much simpler. And like you said, too, the Christmas tree reticles and things, sometimes there's a tool for every toolbox and for every use, right? But
yep,
sometimes that whole KISS method is a little bit easier to go with, and being able to have all the technology there and be able to dial something in and be able to kind of also use software applications. I feel like you can it kind of just simples up the process a little bit for me. And that illuminated dot really was something that I was really happy to see. And as far as just wasn't as busy, man. I was just like, oh, cool. And 10 different degrees of being able to have it as brighter as dim as you want, and for whatever set and setting. Really easy to use, just little turn of
yeah,
the dial there. I love
and
that.
you know why that you like that so much? It's because your eye always wants to find center, right?
Yep.
It doesn't want to look at other things. Like that's why we appreciate when you can dial, is that you get to look at center.
Yes.
Because holdovers are very unnatural for the eye.
Yeah.
Because like it wants to creep back up and look at center, but then you're like trying to put it, a holdover, you're trying to put it in a different spot, and your eyes is like, wait a minute, we're supposed to be looking at center. So obviously both are very helpful, and obviously different applications. So like if it's a military application, obviously holdovers are much faster.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You're not going to dial every single shot,
Right.
because
Right.
you can't. You won't have enough time. And maybe that's similar for like an NRL match or a PRS match. That learning your holdovers is just as important, especially if something that doesn't function or work right. So like if you have all your data, you know all your clicks, obviously, before you jump on the one course. Yeah, it just depends, but yeah. So it's been great to kind of learn that and be a part of it and just like watch the development, help influence it. We're developing a really cool community of people that are either into shooting or just into hunting or lifestyle. So it's been fun to kind of start to develop the next phase of Leica in the US. And, I'm excited for the future. It's only been 6 months for me, so it's been a whirlwind to start, but yeah, we're gonna slowly work on building that and just being more engaged generally.
That's great. Well, and you jumped in right before the show season, and there's a lot of travel. I know we've talked kind of in between when you're
Yeah,
bouncing here and there and meeting with people, and it's been really cool to see this stepping up in and developing even more and talking to you about what's coming down the line. And I look forward to having you back on and talking more as some new product lines come out, and just to kind of see the overall success of Leica Sporting Optics and being able to see where this is moving in the US and this market. Obviously been a leader worldwide for a long time. I've had many years of experience, and I'm going to be using Leica products only for this next year. So as I go out on my hunts and some of the long range stuff I'll be doing, I'll be sharing a lot of videos and reviews about things and sending out some links. So for those below, I will have all the links for Leica, so some of the products we talked about today, and then as the new ones come out here later on in July in the summer, I'll kind of update those links, and we'll either you or Hamilton or someone come back on and talk about some of the new product lines. But for those who may want to follow along your journey, as far as the stuff that you got kicking on personally, can you go ahead and give your socials, and then maybe tell us a little bit about where you'd like to direct people to go look at some of these things that we talked about here at Leica?
yeah, for sure. And then one last thing is from a software ecosystem stuff, signing up with OnX this year. So another cool feature of working with OnX and being able to range and drop a pin. So, if you're in a hunting scenario where you're down a drainage and you see that elk running across the ridge line, and you kind of feel like you know exactly where they are, you can drop that pin and then like walk directly towards that pin. So a nice cool feature that we'll have. Obviously we have that with base maps, but yeah, that's gonna be great. For me personally, I'm just on Instagram mostly, Ryan underscore Holm, HOLM. And then we also have our Instagram for Leica is our Leica Hunting USA. follow us there. So that's probably where you'll see most of our social or things that we're posting that are new. If we're working on any sort of collaborations this year, like another one is like All In. We'll have some stuff for digiscoping, whether on your spotting scope or your binocular as well. That'll launch this year. So follow along on that one. We've got a couple cool, interesting ones that I can't release yet, but you'll be excited. So.
Nice. Well, when they come out, I'll definitely be sharing those. And hey, man, I'm really stoked that you are, kind of behind the drive here and taking everything into the U.S. by storm. I know you've had a lot of success through all your marketing, everything you've done before in the industry, and I know that this is just going to be a great fit as it continues to develop and evolve. And like I said, just like is the best in the industry that I've used. I absolutely love them. I'm very excited that we got to chat a little bit today, and we'll have part 2 sometime soon, man. So yeah, thank you so much, Ryan, for joining me, and looking forward to seeing everything that comes down the pike.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Cheers. You have a good one, man.
Today we're taking a closer look at the GeoVid Pro and Pro AB Plus binocular. Both models deliver Leica's signature premium optics, precise mechanics, powerful processors, atmospheric sensors, and advanced laser technology. Their range targets as close as 10 yards and out to an incredible 3,200 yards. The GeoVid Pro is equipped with Applied Ballistics ultralight, giving you elevation and wind corrections up to 875 yards. The binocular also allows you to store 5 custom ballistic profiles in the Leica Ballistic app. The Pro AB Plus is powered by Applied Ballistics Elite. It also features Leica's exclusive use of the shot probability analysis tool, allowing you to confidently take long-distance shots with precision. The Leica GeoVid Pro and Pro AB Plus binocular, where precision optics meet advanced ballistic technology. Discover the difference today at your authorized Leica dealer.
Here at Seekins Precision, we are growing. To meet the increasing demand created by our customers, we have tripled our square footage, added dozens of new employees, machines, and robots, and we are working around the clock to make sure we get Seekins products into your hands. While we are growing faster than ever, our focus on quality remains our highest priority. Seekins' name is built on the quality and precision of our products and the attention to detail and accuracy of our rifles. At Seekins, we take great pride in the fact that we machine every major component of our rifles under our own roof. From the initial concept and design, through testing and into production, our rifles are machined, assembled, tested, and shipped under our own roof. 100% made in the USA here in the great state of Idaho. Every Seekins product comes with our lifetime, no questions asked, repair or replace warranty. When you buy a Seekins, you know you're getting the most innovative, highest quality, best priced precision firearm available, backed 100% by the people who created it.